In the autumn of 1782, a radical new idea, a nation governed by its people, was on the brink of being extinguished. A professional, unstoppable army, led by Europe's most respected commander, was marching to crush it. Opposing them was a disorganized rabble of citizen soldiers, a mix of seasoned veterans and untested levies.
What happened next wasn't supposed to be a battle. It was meant to be an execution.
Next, we will stand on the foggy battlefield itself, witnessing how a bold, symbolic gesture...
Finally, we'll analyze the shocking aftermath, why a seasoned general ordered a retreat after such a minor skirmish, and how this single act of hesitation allowed a fledgling republic to survive, ultimately changing the very nature of warfare forever.
This is the story of how rain, mud, and a defiant shout changed everything!
3 years after the fall of its absolute monarchy, the new French state was in chaos.
Across Europe, the crowned heads watched with a mixture of fear and disgust.
The stories carried by fleeing émigrés spoke of mob violence and the collapse of social order. For them, this revolutionary experiment was not a dawn of liberty, but a dangerous infection
that had to be stamped out before it contaminated their own kingdoms.
The call to action was answered. The Prussian king assembled a formidable force of around 30,000 elite soldiers, placing them under the command of a man considered one of the finest generals in Europe, the Duke of Brunswick. This was not just any army. It was the inheritor of a legacy of discipline and victory, a military machine.
Fortress after fortress fell. The path to the capital seemed wide open. Panic gripped Paris.
This fear of invasion turned inwards, breeding suspicion and paranoia.
In what became known as the September Massacres, over 1,000 people were brutally killed. The revolution was beginning to devour its own, even as an external enemy threatened to destroy it entirely. Tasked with stopping the unstoppable was an unlikely army under the command of a French general, Dumouriez.
His forces were a chaotic mix of two worlds. On one hand, veterans from the old Royal Army.
On the other, newly raised National Guard levies, citizen soldiers fired by revolutionary zeal but lacking in military spit and polish.
Discipline was often lax, and the loyalty of officers who had once served the king was uncertain.
His initial maneuvers proved him right. The first French defensive strongpoints were quickly overrun,
but the retreat was not a rout. The French forces regrouped, their numbers swelling with reinforcements. A veteran commander, General Kellerman, arrived from Metz, bringing 16,000 troops with him.
Suddenly, the numbers on the field began to look very different.
The Prussian force of around 30,000 men now faced a combined French army of 36,000 on the front. The Prussian king, who traveled with his army, grew impatient. He urged his commander to press the advantage.
And so, on the rainy, foggy night of September 19th, the Prussian army prepared to march, expecting to deliver the final, killing blow.
Suddenly, their world exploded. From the unseen slopes of a nearby hill, shells began to rain down upon them.
They transformed a seemingly open field into a death trap. While this defensive line was being prepared,
Europe's finest artillery was now serving the revolution. The Prussians, though startled, pressed on hesitantly. They captured a small inn.
But as he prepared for a full assault, a crucial element was missing: a clear plan of attack. He had expected a retreating enemy, not a prepared defensive line.
Around noon, the weather finally broke. The fog lifted.
What the Prussians saw was not the revolutionary mob they had been promised. Instead,
Holding a strong position atop an awkward, muddy hill. This was no rabble. This was an army. Despite his reservations, the Duke ordered his infantry to form into columns and begin their advance.
This was the decisive moment. This was when the professional soldiers of Prussia were supposed to...
Among them was a young knight, the nephew of a powerful English earl, who spotted the outlaw king himself. He took his hat, adorned with the red, white, and blue cockade of the Revolution, and placed it on the tip of his sword.
raising it high for all his men to see, he let out a thunderous cry. It was a battle cry for a new era. It was not a cry for a king.
His troops responded instantly, their own shouts echoing across the valley.
Vive la Nation! As the Prussians advanced, the French soldiers stood their ground for the onslaught.
This was a new kind of war, fought not for a monarch's ambition.
The story of that defiant gesture has perhaps been embellished over time, but every witness remembered it. Whether it was the shock of this unexpected morale, or the simple, stark military reality that he was outnumbered,
the Duke of Brunswick suddenly wavered.
He gave an order that stunned his own officers. He recalled the attacking columns. The infantry assault was called off. For the rest of the afternoon, the two armies simply stood there, trading cannon fire in a long, indecisive duel. As dusk fell, a torrential downpour returned, finally bringing the strange, desultory conflict to an end.
In military terms, it was barely a battle. The French had suffered around 300 casualties.
But in political and psychological terms, it was an earthquake.
The unstoppable Prussian army had been stopped. The revolutionary rabble had held its ground.
For the French, it was hailed as the first great victory of the revolution.
Back on the battlefield, the Duke of Brunswick and the Prussian king made a prudent, and for many, a baffling decision. They withdrew. They turned their magnificent army around and began the long, ignominious retreat back to the Rhine.
Paris was saved. The revolution was saved.
So, what did this muddy, inconclusive artillery duel truly achieve?
An army of citizen soldiers, fueled by a new, powerful idea of nationhood. That single moment of uncertainty
gave a fragile republic the breathing room it needed to survive.
And in doing so, it opened the door to a new, more total form of warfare, where the business of war became
The sight and sound of this terrifying charge was the final straw, and changed the map of Europe forever.
What other battles do you believe were won not by force, but by psychology? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this exploration of a forgotten turning point in history fascinating, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel.
For more stories of the moments that shaped our world. Thank you for watching.